Hi team! For some of us, reading food labels has become a routine part of our shopping experience. For others, they are nothing more than a weird white box on the back of the package. The real information is on the front in the big bold letters, right? Well, after this short presentation, our hope is that you will not only feel confident reading food labels, but that you will be armed with additional knowledge, information, and power that helps you make better food choices while going shopping. Reading food labels can really help you make healthier choices. They make it easy to compare different products and see which ones are better for you. When you start paying attention to what's inside your food, it becomes easier to manage your weight, support your heart health, and keep your blood sugar steady. Plus, you'll get better at spotting those hidden sugars, extra sodium, and unhealthy fats that can sneak into everyday foods. So what is in a food label? Well, when you look at a food label, there are a few key things to check. First, start with the serving size. It tells you how much one portion actually is. Next, look at the calories to see how much energy you're getting per serving. Then pay attention to nutrients to limit, such as fat, sodium, and added sugars. These can add up really fast. On the other hand, also focus on nutrients to eat more of, such as fiber, protein, vitamins, and minerals. You'll also see daily values or percent DV, which shows you how much a nutrient contributes to your total daily needs. And finally, don't skip the ingredient list. It's the best way to spot what's really in your foods. So what about serving size? Well, let's take a closer look. Serving size is an important part of understanding a food label. The serving size represents the amount of food that people typically eat during one sitting, not a recommended portion. It's there to provide a standard reference, but it doesn't reflect individual needs or goals. Because everyone's nutritional requirements are different, your portion may be smaller or larger than the listed serving size. That's why it's so important to compare the serving size to the amount you actually eat. For example, if the label shows that 2 cookies equals 150 calories, but you usually eat 4 cookies, you're actually consuming 300 calories, double what's listed. Understanding this relationship between serving size and portion size helps you make more accurate decisions about your calorie intake and overall nutrition. Now let's take a closer look and talk more about calories. This is one of the most recognized parts of a food label. Calories show how much energy you get from one serving of food. Paying attention to this number helps you balance your calories in versus your calories out. In other words, how much energy you take in from food compared to how much your body uses throughout the day. Tracking calories can help you stay aware of your energy intake and support goals like maintaining, losing, or gaining weight. Here's an example. If a label lists 250 calories per serving, but you eat 2 servings, that's actually 500 total calories. Small differences like that can add up very quickly, so it's always worth checking the math. When we're looking specifically at diets, and more particularly at weight loss, calories in versus calories out becomes a very important calculation. There is no magic pill or secret remedy to losing weight. We simply must burn more calories than the amount of calories we take in. And there is no special diet. Every diet that actually works in some way limits calories. The key, however, is beginning to understand what those calories are and what the needs of our individual bodies are based on our body consumption goals, such as if we tend to build muscle mass, much of our calories should be in the form of protein. If we intend on running and enduring endurance type Athletics, such as triathlons or marathons, the bulk of our calories needs to be in carbohydrates. And again, if our goal is to lose weight, we simply must burn more calories than the calories we consume. Now let's take a look at percent daily value, or percent DV. This number shows how much a single serving of food contributes to your recommended daily intake of each nutrient. However, this is based on a 2,000 calorie per day diet. It's a helpful tool for determining whether a product is high or low in certain nutrients. As a general guideline, aim for foods that have 5% or less daily value for nutrients you want to limit, such as total fat, saturated fat, cholesterol, and sodium. On the other hand, try to choose foods that provide 20% or more daily value for nutrients you want more of, like fiber, vitamins, and minerals. For example, if a food label shows 25% DV for calcium, that means it's a great source of calcium and can make a strong contribution to your daily needs. When reading a food label, focus on the nutrients that support your health goals. Fiber, for example, helps with digestion and promotes a lasting feeling of fullness, making it easier to manage hunger throughout the day. Protein is an essential ingredient for muscle gain and muscle repair, especially if you're active or recovering from workouts. Vitamins and minerals contribute to your body's overall health, supporting everything from energy production to immune function. As a general rule, aim for foods that provide a high percent daily value, about 20% or more per serving. The higher the percent DV, the more that food contributes to your daily nutrient needs. When reading food labels, it's just as important to recognize what to limit or avoid as it is to look for beneficial nutrients. Saturated fat and trans fat increase your risk of heart disease by raising unhealthy cholesterol levels. Sodium, common in many processed and packaged foods, can contribute to high blood pressure and water retention. Added sugars can lead to weight gain, energy crashes, and a higher risk of diabetes when eaten too often. Beyond nutrients, be cautious of preservatives and additives that can negatively affect your health. Watch for ingredients such as sodium nitrate and nitrite. These are often used in processed meats, and they've been linked to heart disease and cancer. BHA and BHT. These are synthetic preservatives that may disrupt hormones. Artificial colors and flavors. These can cause sensitivity or hyperactivity in some people. Monosodium glutamate, or MSG. This may trigger headaches or bloating in sensitive individuals. For these nutrients and additives, aim for a low percent daily value, about 5% or less per serving, and shorter ingredients lists with words you recognize. Now let's talk about the ingredient list. This is one of the most valuable parts of the food label. Ingredients are listed in descending order by weight, meaning the first few items make up the majority of the product. This helps you quickly see what a food is mostly made of. Use the ingredient list to spot added sugars, sodium, and unhealthy fats that might not be obvious at first glance. Words like high fructose corn syrup, hydrogenated oils, or sodium nitrate are good indicators to take a closer look. You can also use this section to identify whole, nutrient-dense ingredients, such as whole grains, fruits, vegetables, and lean proteins. A good rule of thumb to follow is that a shorter ingredients list usually means less processed foods, which is what you want to aim for. Whenever possible, choose foods that have 5 or fewer recognizable ingredients, not counting added vitamins and minerals. And as previously stated, watch for chemical-laden preservatives and additives, as these can negatively impact your health. In addition to the ones previously mentioned, such as sodium nitrate and nitrites, BHA, BHT, artificial colors and flavors, MSG, also watch closely for food coloring and dyes. Many of these additives have been linked to cancer and chronic gut inflammation. You can also follow my simple rule. If I can't pronounce it or explain what it is, I probably shouldn't eat it. Taking a moment to check the ingredient lists helps you identify foods made with simple, whole ingredients and avoid unnecessary additives that don't support your health goals. When reading a nutrition label, it's also important to understand the difference between total sugars, added sugars, and natural sugars. In our current culture, carbs or sugars are quite discriminated against, and they shouldn't be, as not all sugars are bad. When looking at the food label, total sugars represent the entire amount of sugar found in a food. This includes both naturally occurring sugars and any that were added during processing. Added sugars show only the extra sugar that was put into the product. These do not include the natural sugars that come from ingredients such as fruit or milk. Common forms of added sugar include sucrose or table sugar, corn syrup, and high fructose corn syrup, all of which can raise blood sugar quickly and add empty calories. These type of sugars should be avoided. These type of sugars are the types that give sugar or carbs a bad reputation. On the other hand, natural sugars come from wholesome foods such as fruit or fructose and milk or lactose. These sugars are naturally packaged with vitamins, minerals, and fibers, which help slow digestion and provide longer lasting energy. When possible, choose foods with little to no added sugar and get your sweetness from natural sources like fresh fruit or dairy. And remember, sugar or carbs are the fuel that primarily feed our cells. That helps us move and gives us energy to keep going. We should not avoid sugar, just be cognizant of what type of sugar is going into our bodies, just as what type of fuel we are putting in our cars. Let's talk about some tips for smart choices. Food labels are powerful tools if you know what to look for. First, choose food made with whole grains that do not contain added sugar and are high in fiber. Whole grains and fiber help you feel full longer and support healthy digestion, while limiting added sugar helps control energy crashes and weight gain. Next, compare similar products like different brands of yogurt or cereal. You'll often find big differences in sugar, sodium, or calorie content, even when the packages look alike. Watch portion sizes. Many packages contain more than one serving, so doubling or tripling the serving size can also double or triple your calories, sugar, and fat intake without realizing it. Finally, use the label to spot hidden calories. Ingredients like added sugars, refined oils, and high-fat additives can quickly add up, even in foods that seem healthy at first glance. By paying attention to these details, you can make smarter, more informed food choices that truly support your health and fitness goals. When reading food labels and trying to estimate serving sizes, many of us don't go to a restaurant or a shopping center with a teaspoon, a tablespoon, or a cup on hand. So some good tricks on estimating serving sizes can be found with this slide. Packaging and restaurant servings are often much larger than what's recommended. Pay attention to that when eating out. Also, a great way to estimate healthy portions is by using simple visual guides you always have on hand with you, such as your hand or other household items. For example, a fist equals about 1 cup, perfect for measuring foods like rice, pasta, or fruit. Your palm, excluding your fingers, represents about 3 ounces of meat, poultry, or fish. That is usually roughly 1 serving of protein. A cupped hand equals about a half a cup, a good rule for nuts, beans, or grains. Your thumb equals about 1 tablespoon. That's helpful for measuring things like peanut butter or salad dressing. A pair of dice is roughly 1 teaspoon, a quick way to visualize small amounts of butter, oil, or sugar. Using these visual tools helps you keep portions realistic, managing calories, and stay mindful without needing a scale or measuring cups. Remember, portion control isn't about restriction, it's about balance and awareness to help you meet your goals. Now that we've reviewed how to read a food label, it's time to put a few things into practice. Reading a food label doesn't have to be complicated. It just takes a few quick questions to guide your choices and make sense of what's really in your food. First, ask yourself, what is the serving size? Everything on the label, calories, fat, sugar, and protein, is based on that serving size. If you eat more than the serving, you're usually eating more calories and nutrients than listed. The next question, how many calories would you eat if you had 2 servings? This helps you quickly calculate how much energy you're really consuming. Portion awareness can make a big difference in maintaining or reaching your health goals. For example, while eating one cookie that has 100 calories may not make that much of a difference in your overall health or weight goals, but eating 6 or 600 calories absolutely makes a big difference. That is one good way to really limit calorie intake. Another helpful tip is look for nutrients that matter most. Ask, is it high in fiber? Foods rich in fiber help keep you full, regulate digestion, and support heart health. Aim for at least 3 grams of fiber or a high percent DV per serving. Check the sugar and sodium content. Ask yourself, are there added sugars or high sodium levels? These can add up fast and may contribute to weight gain, high blood pressure, and other health issues. Look at the ingredients list. Are they short, simple, and recognizable? The fewer the ingredients and the more natural they are, the less processed the food tends to be. Also check the type of fats. Aim for foods with healthy, unsaturated fats and limit trans fats or high saturated fat levels. And finally ask, would you choose this product? Why or why not? Think about your goals. Is it nutrient dense, balanced, and appropriate for your needs? Or does it have more sugar, sodium, or additives than you want? By taking just a minute to ask these simple questions, you'll turn label reading into a habit that helps you shop smarter, eat better, and take control of your nutrition every day. And finally, let's take the information we used and go shopping. First, let's look for food packaging mismatches. These are often quite common. The front of the package displays in big bold letters the healthy benefits of this particular food. While turning the package around and reading the food label, we can absolutely see it may be high in additives and preservatives or added sugar and actually aren't healthy despite the fancy labeling. Next, let's look for food labels that seem to be the best or most nutritious. And let's look for food labels that seem to be the worst or least nutritious. Where do we typically find these foods? Are they quick to make? Are they packaged in fancy ways? Let's start to pay attention to where we typically find healthy foods and unhealthy foods. Next, let's explore healthy food choices through reading food labels. Let's go to the bread aisle. Find the most healthy breads. Let's go to the meat aisle. Find the most healthy lunch meats. How about a snack? What snack would meet our nutrition goals? Let's look at salad dressing. Let's look at protein supplements. Let's look at breakfast cereals. And finally, can we find some pre-packaged meals that are relatively healthy compared to other non-healthy pre-packaged meals? At the end of this challenge, our hope is that we will be armed with some real-life practical tools that will help us make healthier food choices while shopping and trying to fuel our bodies with the nutrients it needs.